know what would happen if I suddenly stopped going to Riz Academy? A skippity. So sigma that it could be ratioed by queso goes belly up, disappears. It gets phantom taxed by Quandale Dingle. No, you clearly don't know who the true sigma is, so let me clue you in. A guy opens his door and gets mogged. Do you think that of me? No. I am the one who mogs.
If you've ever found yourself mindlessly scrolling through TikTok or binging YouTube videos until 3 AM, you're not alone. Millions of us around the globe are victims to the new age of digital media. And in today's fast-paced world, the culture of instant gratification for Gen Zs has become a defining feature of our modern-day society. Gen Zs have grown up with technology that delivers immediate rewards. From streaming services that eliminate the need to wait for the next episode, to social media platforms that provide immediate dopamine responses to the number of likes, comments, and views you get on each video. The expectation of immediate results has infiltrated almost every aspect of everyday life, creating a pervasive sense of immediate urgency. For Gen Zs, we've become acclimated to the notion of needing things, and needing things now. The internet has revolutionized the way we access and consume content. We live in an age where information is at our very fingertips, and one where we seek instant gratification in anything and everything we do. As much as I hate to admit it, this concept of instant gratification has become a hallmark in our digital age. A perfect example of this is the shift in how we consume media. Let me tell you a story. For me, my childhood was characterized in the mid to late 2000s. I grew up on the concept of DVD stores and the telly. Growing up, you had to wait an entire week for the next episode of your favorite TV series. There was no streaming service like Netflix or Disney+. When I was a kid, you had to wait an entire week for the next episode of your favorite TV series. For the OG Star Wars fans out there, I absolutely loved this show called The Clone Wars growing up. Absolutely adored it. And it would play on the Cartoon Channel every single Thursday and Friday at 4 o'clock after school. Back then, the anticipation of waiting for the show was almost as exciting as watching the show itself. If you missed an episode, it was a big deal and you'd have to go into the next episode not knowing what was going on. You couldn't simply just rewatch it, or there was no streaming service for you to catch up on, or even a DVR to record it for you. And so each schedule became a significant event, and I would arrange my entire schedule around it. I didn't care what was going on or what I had on that day, but I knew damn well I would be sitting in front of the telly watching that show at 4 o'clock every single Thursday and Friday. To put things into context, this was less than 2 decades ago. And the concept of on-demand streaming to what we have today, at this day's scale and magnitude, was unimaginable. Fast forward to the modern day, and streaming services such as Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus have revolutionized the media consumption experience. These mediums have changed the way in which we transact and consume media. The joy of waiting and the shared excitement of discussing episodes with friends week after week has been replaced by a more isolated and fleeting sense of fulfillment. There's obviously an argument to be made that the convenience of modern-day streaming services is undeniable. And you know what? It is kind of fun watching an entire storyline unfold over one weekend. But the truth of the matter is, you lose the slow burn excitement that once made watching your favorite TV show so enticing. And at the end of your binge session, you're left with a fleeting sense of, oh, was that it? Times have changed. If I wanted to rewatch The Clone Wars, I can find it all on Disney Plus, ready at a click of a button. For Gen Zs and for you and me, we've never known a world without it. Before we go too deep, I want to take a step back and explain the concept of instant gratification. The psychological definition of instant gratification is referred to as the need to immediately fulfill an urge or desire. And this concept can be applied to a lot of our day-to-day lives. Do you go on social media first thing in the morning? Do you scroll on TikTok and Instagram Reels before you head to bed? Or can you even go to the bathroom without some form of entertainment? All of these examples are just touching the surface in understanding how our brain is conditioned to do what's easy and to do what makes us happy in the moment. For Gen Zs, they've been conditioned for years to receive that instant shot of dopamine. A few years ago, there was a very interesting TED Talk that was given by a Harvard graduate named Tim Urban, and he touches on the notion of procrastination and explains why the concept of instant gratification has taken such a hold on our everyday lives. Instead of butchering the explanation, I'll let Tim take the stage.
So here's the brain of a non-procrastinator. Now, here's my brain. There is a difference. Both brains have a rational decision maker in them, but the procrastinator's brain also has an instant gratification monkey. Now, what does this mean for the procrastinator? Well, it means everything's fine until this happens. So the rational decision maker will make the rational decision to do something productive, but the monkey doesn't like that plan. So he actually takes the wheel, and he says, actually, let's read the entire Wikipedia page of the Nancy Kerrigan Tanya Harding scandal, because I just remembered that happened. Then we're gonna go over to the fridge, we're gonna see if there's anything new in there since 10 minutes ago. After that, we're gonna go on a YouTube spiral that starts with videos of Richard Feynman talking about magnets and ends much, much later with us watching interviews with Justin Bieber's mom. All of that's gonna take a while, so we're not gonna really have room on the schedule for any work today, sorry.
Now, I just know that all of us here have been down the rabbit hole of doing absolutely nothing, that we forget what we're actually meant to be doing. Tim introduces the concept of the instant gratification monkey, which is essentially a metaphor that represents the part of the brain that seeks immediate pleasure and distracts from long-term goals. The monkey lives on the concept of procrastination and leeches in the pleasure of the present moment, avoiding any tasks that require effort or delay rewards. The monkey, suffice to say, is not someone you want behind the wheel of your decision making. He lives entirely in the present moment. He has no memory of the past, no knowledge of the future, and he only cares about two things: easy and fun. For Gen Zs, there's always an ongoing battle between the rational decision maker and the instant gratification monkey. Think of it as a push and pull, where both sides are constantly fighting for your attention between what's easy and fun and what's actually the right thing to do.
Now, sometimes it makes sense to be doing things that are easy and fun, like when you're having dinner, or going to bed, or enjoying well-earned leisure time. That's why there's an overlap. Sometimes they agree. But other times, it makes much more sense to be doing things that are harder and less pleasant for the sake of the big picture, and that's when we have a conflict. And for the procrastinator, that conflict tends to end a certain way every time, leaving him spending a lot of time in this orange zone, an easy and fun place that's entirely out of the make sense circle. I call it the dark playground. Now, the dark playground is a place that all of you procrastinators out there know very well. It's where leisure activities happen at times when leisure activities are not supposed to be happening. The fun you have in the dark playground isn't actually fun because it's completely unearned and the air is filled with guilt, dread, anxiety, self-hatred, all those good procrastinator feelings.
Each of us watching this video has an instant gratification monkey and the rational decision maker within our brains. Now, the terrible thing is, and for Gen Zs especially, our neurons have been so fried from years of conditioning to mindlessly scrolling social media that we've actually let the instant gratification monkey take the wheel and make the decisions most of the time. The monkey will drag you into the dark playground, where pleasure will be filled with stress, anxiety, and guilt, because you know you should be doing what's right and what makes sense to do, instead of what's fun and what's easy. And the research speaks for itself. An article conducted by Forbes identified that Gen Zs are becoming adults during an era of societal collapse. Endless choice has transformed into a psychological burden where young people are overstimulated but under-socialized. So what exactly is brain rot, right? It's a term that's become popular with Gen Zs to describe the overwhelming sense of mental exhaustion and numbness that comes from the constant consumption of content. I know, a bit of a tongue twister there. Imagine your brain as a sponge for absorbing endless streams of information, memes, news, and videos without a break. At some point, sooner or later, that sponge will become overwhelmed. And it's not just about consuming content, right? It's about the type of content that we consume as well. We're constantly bombarded with clickbait, sensational headlines, and shock value that is specifically designed to grab our attention, but rarely provide any substantial value. Yes, I'm talking about you, BuzzFeed. Over time, this constant barrage dulls our senses and makes us less responsive to the world around us. What used to shock or amuse us now barely registers, leading us to become desensitized to the world around us. So, why exactly has Gen Z especially become so desensitized? Well, one major factor is just the sheer amount of content that we consume on a daily basis. From the moment we wake up to the second we go to sleep, we're plugged into an endless stream of information. Our brains are in a constant state of overload, processing everything from the latest memes to breaking news. This constant bombardment makes it hard for anything to truly stand out or impact us deeply. To make things worse, social media platforms are especially designed to keep us engaged by recommending content that elicits strong reactions and emotions from us. The thing is though, as we continue to consume this type of content, our responses become dulled to what's extreme or what's sensationalized. Now, think about it, right? The first time you consumed a shocking news story, it hits hard and it hits home. But the 10th time, not so much. This repeated exposure leads to a level of emotional burnout where we become numb to the things that used to affect us. The constant connectivity also means we're always on, always consuming, and never taking a break to process or to reflect. We scroll past important news stories without really absorbing them. We swipe through emotional posts without feeling a sense of empathy, and consume content at such a rapid pace that nothing truly ever sinks in. As a generation, we've become desensitized to the concept of normal. Enter the doomer. If you haven't heard of this term, it's a concept introduced by Gen Zs and millennials to portray someone who's lost all hope and who's filled with a sense of pessimism and hopelessness towards the world around them. Doomers are often portrayed as detached, disillusioned, and emotionally drained. They've seen so much negativity online that they've lost all hope in the world around them. Now, I want you to understand that this isn't just a meme or a character. It's a real world phenomenon, and it's a reflection of how we've become disillusioned to the world around us. The sad thing is, for many young people, and especially Gen Zs, they've started to feel a growing sense of doubt as they begin to feel overwhelmed to the world around them. There is an ongoing sense of disconnection between what's real and what's not. What is going on around us? How do we fulfill ourselves? And why are we even here? I know, super deep. The doomer concept is a coping mechanism for a lot of us, as we shield ourselves from the emotional burden of a world that feels increasingly chaotic and out of control. But the thing is, it also illustrates more centralized nuances within our society, specifically the way our digital consumption habits are shaping our mental health and our ability to connect with each other on a meaningful level. Alongside the concept of the doomer, the rise of social media has transformed the way in which Gen Zs consume, communicate, and connect with the world around us. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok have become integral parts of our daily lives. But with the rise of social media comes significant implications for our health and emotional well-being. The nature of social media means that we're constantly comparing ourselves to the others around us. We often see curated highlights of other people's lives. And as human beings, we can't help ourselves but compare. What about us? Why are we not that successful? Why are we not that rich? Why don't I have what they have? And this could lead to feelings of inadequacy amongst ourselves. When you're constantly bombarded with the concept of success, and you see these influencers living their seemingly perfect lives, it's easy to feel like you're worthless or unsuccessful. As we continuously scroll, day in and day out, we begin to feel a sense of numbing as we emotionally disengage from the people and from the world around us. This means that things become normalized even when they shouldn't be. In our continuous state of nothingness, the concept of content fatigue reigns supreme, where we've become overstimulated and undersatisfied. We all know that social media platforms thrive on engagement. Algorithms are designed to use our own consumption habits against us. Nuances such as, do you engage with this content? Or, how long have you watched this video? Drive our knowledge of consumption habits. The reason? It's that content can be curated specifically for us to drive an emotional reaction, to keep us clicking, to keep us watching over and over and over again. And sadly, a lot of the time, this means that sensationalized, shocking, or emotionally charged content will rise to the top, because it's those things that keep us engaged. Now, I don't want to call out any names, but look how popular drama channels have become. At the end of the day, sensationalism sells, and we've become victims to it. It also doesn't help that all of these social media platforms and influencers and creators are all fighting for our attention. And with our attention spans getting shorter and shorter and shorter, we start to become desensitized to the amount of sensationalized content on the internet. And you know what that means? Content has to become even more sensationalized, even more crazy, and even more daring to elicit the same sort of reaction from us. At this point, when our brain begins to dull the media we consume, we begin to experience social and psychological triggers to our media consumption experience. As Gen Zs become desensitized, their ability to empathize with others also begins to suffer. As a new generation has become constantly exposed to tragedy and suffering online for their entire lives, it can become difficult to feel genuine empathy for those affected. I mean, just take a look back at how many sensationalized pieces of content we've consumed over the past half decade. From the war in Ukraine to the Israel-Palestine conflict, to the mass amount of terror and mass shootings. The fact of the matter is, we've become numb to this. This concept has been termed compassion fatigue by professors Natalia Andreychuk and Julia Havlova. Their study, conducted on nurses who experienced traumatic events day in and day out, witnessed a correlation between the years of experience of nurses and the reduction in empathetic responses towards the new trauma. This was because their psychological system had become numb to the suffering of others, reducing the level of natural compassion in their emotional responses. Whilst not all of us are nurses, this concept can be applied to how we consume sensationalized content in our digital age, where more and more Gen Zs are experiencing compassion fatigue and becoming empathetically disconnected to the world around them. Beyond sensationalized content, there's also the impact on our sense of reality. When influencers and large social media figures portray curated versions of their lives, we can't help but distort our view of reality to be just like them. We look up to them, we idolize them, and in a twisted way, we begin to think what we see online is a true reflection of the world around us. A world where Gen Z has become disillusioned to the concept of reality and normalized expectations. And the research has shown this. Multiple studies have demonstrated that heavy social media use, especially within the new generation, has been scientifically linked to high levels of anxiety and depression. For Gen Zs, it's become easier and easier to feel overwhelmed and helpless. today's hyper-connected world, many of us feel caught in the relentless pull of digital engagement. The constant influx of notifications and the allure of endlessly scrolling has left us feeling overwhelmed and detached. As digital natives, Gen Zs have grown up alongside technology. But when is enough enough? Social media has found a way to connect us with more people around the world than ever before. And yet, in a sick, twisted way, we've become more lonely than ever. Until next time.